Hey everyone, Genome here, coming at you with another, almost like a two-parter video here, and I'm going to be giving my DD4 post-mortem. For those of you who have not gone in, I'm going to go over each character that I took to Gear Tier 15, and just give you a quick synopsis of how they performed for me, and whether I recommend that you actually put gear into this person.
Do I really look like a guy with a plan?
Of course, almost all this advice can probably be taken with a real grain of salt because, you know, new characters get released all the time. For instance, I didn't have Icarus or Circe at Gear Tier 15 at the time, so that probably made the Cosmic area a little bit easier, but notwithstanding, I think most of these picks are pretty safe, but anyway, we'll go through them, and then finally, I'll give the wrap-up to whether I think Doom is worth all the time and investment. So, let's get into part one here right now. Alright, so here, before you will see every character that I took through DD4, took all the way to Gear Tier 15. Some of these weren't there for my first run. Let's see, Cloak and Dagger came in a little bit later in my first run. Who else? I didn't put Icarus and all that on there, so I think just about everybody else I had. And then Adam Warlock, I don't think I used him my first run either. I think I used him only my second. So, all that notwithstanding, let's get on with the show. So, starting off, we have Black Bolt. Black Bolt is a character that I actually promoted to 7 reds just because I liked using him so much in raiding. Not as much anymore, of course, but so mine is probably beefier than most. Still probably not recommended to take him to 15. In fact, guaranteed not really wanting to take him that far. He's falling off the map pretty fast in all areas. Well, he's been out for a while actually now, but he just offers damage, and in DD4, it's not enough. You need to offer some utility, and basically any Dark Dimension for that matter. His passive, which is usually his main selling point, is pretty ineffective in Dark Dimension because of the inflated health pools. Usually his ping is not going to be picking off anybody, especially if they just cross the red threshold. So I used him in my first run, and didn't use him in my second, so not recommended. But depending where you are in the game, he can be still pretty useful in some raids. Maybe like the lower ends of Arena. But anyway, that's enough about Black Bolt. Thanos, I pulled 7 reds on him naturally ages ago, beefed him up in the era of Black Order, and I use him still almost daily in some raids that we do. He is pretty squishy, though, as far as a character with this much investment, so he's not really recommended for DD5. Only thing he's there for is being energy battery, and sometimes an emergency damage soak. The problem with his damage soak is that you actually want him alive to be the energy battery. That is his main selling point, so not real strong here, especially because you can't pair him with Ebony Maw outside the first, 3 nodes, because Ebony Maw is a legendary, so even in the Cosmic section, where these two should pair very well together, doesn't work. So, not recommended. Still has, character still with use, especially for the mid game and late or early late game player. I got that one spit out, but there it is. Jubilee. Some people say yay, some people say nay. I was very happy to have her in the legendary section. Didn't use her anywhere else as far as DD4 goes, but I think she definitely made things a lot easier than without her. I'd definitely rather take her than, like, Shuri or Invisible Woman, and definitely Nick Fury, depending on if you plan on building him or not. So, I think she was good. She was solid. She's squishy, but that's the nature of the beast. Outside of, like, Doc Ock, most of the other legendaries are really squishy. Most of them are older characters you're bringing in there, so not a bad character. And definitely recommend investing in her because you can use her all over the place in the game. They're a good war attack team. They're a great raid team, especially in the Doom nodes. You have to use a mutant team. Well, there you go. That's the premier mutant raid team right there. So, yeah, definitely no qualms with taking Jubilee. Sinister can be hero or just there. And, like, in DD3, he was definitely more of a just there character. And back when I built him for DD3, he was supposed to be future-proof. This is in those far-off days when Kestrel was not even to be seen over the horizon. But it doesn't negate his use in a lot of areas because, Kestrel's not really everywhere. So But the problem being is his clones really get destroyed in DD3, especially, but in DD4, not too well as well. But he is also the MVP in like one of the global nodes of DD4, specifically the last one. When it behooves you to start cloning symbiote Spider-Mans as soon as you can, you create the clone army of symbiote Spider-Mans, and you are basically unkillable. And basically, it doesn't matter who else is around, as long as you have enough room for the symbiote Spider-Man clones. It's a long, tedious process, but it works. So would I recommend getting him up now? It's a tough sell, because he isn't getting a ton of use in a lot of game modes. I am using him right now, though, believe it or not, in Arena as a 5th, along with Kestrel, the Eternals, and Doom. I don't know, and sometimes I swap out one of the slots there with like Zemo or Emma, whoever, but I still find him useful, decent war defense team, even though there's a couple of pretty hard counters to it nowadays. Man, I'm so on the fence. I stuck the 6th red on him, too, because I really love the character. I think he's one of the best designed characters in the game, if not best. And the only reason I don't hardly say go ahead and go for it is he demands war credits, and war currency is so hard to come by. I'm on the fence, but I think you won't be disappointed, at least in DD4 with him, because he's really good there, and he does have use in other modes, but it's a maybe. I like him a lot. I definitely would have raised him. Your mileage may vary depending on where you have him at. I have him at 7 yellows, too. I farmed him forever. But anyway, long story short, he was really, really, really good in the final global node, and just alright in the other ones, and if you're going back to DD3, he was just a body, but whatever. Kestrel's Kestrel, amazing character. What more do you want to say about her? Yes, if you have her, bring her up. she's good in the cosmic. It's too bad you couldn't use her in like the global. Well, that made things a lot easier too, but no such luck with that one. So Kestrel's a no-brainer. Next one, Symbiote Spider-Man is basically a no-brainer as well. If you're going to get the city nodes done in either DD3 or DD4, you're probably going to want some sort of shell of the symbiotes, and the heart and soul of that shell is Symbiote Spider-Man. Basically a no-brainer. Now, all that being said, Web Warriors are right around the corner, so this advice for the symbiotes may be completely out of the ballpark here in the very near future, but it's going to take a little time to get those characters farmed up and geared up and all that good stuff, and you're waiting on the release cadence for them too, so without that full team, it still might be better with some sort of hybrid. I know a lot of people are using Symbiote Spider-Man in the Web Warriors hybrid right now. I don't have any of them. I don't care about the team, but your mileage may vary, but for right now, he's a safe bet. So, but just watch what happens with symbiotes, with Web Warriors before you make that final judgment call. Ebony Maw, pretty good. I only say pretty good in the legendary section. Basically, anywhere you can play him in DD3 or 4, he's pretty good. But without Thanos, this guy's a shell of his former self. I mean, not only is his passive interacts with Thanos in a couple different ways, and he relies a lot on the energy battery. I actually used the full Black Order in DD3, which was pretty effective. I mean, it still took you a few goes after the first 2 nodes of Cosmic, but all that being said, but he really has super long cooldowns on his ultimate, which is his best move in there. And even his special, I think, is 4 energy. So it can take a little while to get that stuff back. And then he's just kind of sitting there, throwing vulnerables up with, but you're very limited on your choices for Legendary. But I tell you, I'd be real careful about putting too much gear into Ebony Maw because he is fading fast. Doesn't have a ton of use. I'd say he has a lot more use in the mid game. I know that kind of goes without saying, but for like U7s and modes like that, he's really, really good, especially paired with Thanos. War Attack with a full Black Order, it's middling, maybe top 5 team nowadays. I don't know. It seems like a lot of stuff really just walks over them nowadays. He might be a swing spot. As valuable as he is there, it's once again something to consider if you already have him, or if you already have him geared and it's not that much to take him more up to that next level. Consider it, but if you have another legendary to plug in the slot, more on that later, probably recommend going with them. But anyhow, Doc Ock, another character who is kind of on the cusp, but he's good. He's good, don't get me wrong, and he's super survivable and has a lot of utility in Dark Dimension and other modes for that matter too. So he's not a total waste. Right now, we're starved for good tech characters, and he's basically one of the best. You know, I mean, he's right up there with, I don't know, this certain person right here, who shall remain nameless. But you're limited, for one, in your choices on the legendary nodes, and two, you're limited, like, in other areas of the game with tech characters. So right now, Doc Ock is a pretty safe bet, but he's a lot like Maw. He's falling fast. And in Dark Dimension, unless you have plans on making a beefy war team or doom raiding with tech and you think you're going to need this guy, I would kind of hold off to see what's on the horizon. Basically, Omega Red can invalidate one of any of these characters. So let's just get that out there. Maybe not Adam Warlock, but he's just so much more tuned to that game mode and he's a newer character. So his stats are much better, his kits is much better. Doc Ock is great, don't get me wrong. He brings so much good to the team, but I'm just saying that he will be one of the first dominoes to fall, I think, in the legendary section. So buyer beware. Adam Warlock, I used him on my second run through legendary, and definitely made things easier. Once again, it's like you have a lot of control on that team between Ebony Maw, Doc Ock, Jubilee, Adam Warlock, and whoever I didn't use Black Bolt as my fifth the second time, but I used Phoenix, but ton of control there, which is needed. The only problem is there's usually so many enemies, it's tough to really control them all. So you're almost better off trying to nuke a few down, which is hard to do, right? So then you can really control. Once you get the enemies, as long as the waves don't replenish themselves until everyone's gone, once you get a few of the other dangerous characters down, you can really, really, really control the other team and lock them down. And Adam Warlock is great for that. He has a good health pool, good at extending things. He's just a really valuable member. And outside of DD4, you know, Infinity Watch still has plenty of use. They're not meta somewhat they are actually in Arena as an attack team on a certain version of the Eternals teams. And a lot of people leave, if they have a really built up Infinity Watch, they actually leave those on defense. Just for the fact that it takes longer to get through them, so some people will just go to another Eternals team to try to get over faster. So Warlock has his uses. Not really used in raids. You don't need him. Mystic is already way too good. You don't really need that tag with him, but definitely a recommended character, and he's newer, so at least I think I read a post I read earlier. It said he still has a foot in the meta, while Ebony Maw only has a toe in there, right? So it's kind of an app thing. You won't use him everywhere, but you can use him in war, every war, probably on attack. You'll also have, it'll come and go in use in Arena. Don't really need him in raids. RTA, he's actually not too bad in RTA in a lot of situations, too. My speaking is great tonight.
Me fail English? That's impossible.
I like to pair him up with the new Warriors for all the debuffs and then adding on to it. All that being said, Warlock, I think, is one of the safer bets as far as legendaries go. Your mileage may vary. Gamora, she's just there. She's definitely not nearly as good without the rest of the Infinity Watch, which I did not bring up to 15 for just DD4. Yeah, there's a lot of good cosmic characters. She's not upper echelon, but if you're building her anyway for Infinity Watch, yeah, you might as well. But yeah, she doesn't have a whole lot of use outside of her team. Like, she's not a real great plug-and-play character because you need the other characters to get her into her empowered form faster. And even then, she's not bringing a ton other than raw damage. And really, raw damage in DD4 is almost like an afterthought. Control is king and sustain is king. Damage will come through damage over time. So it's a little questionable. It depends on how much you want to work on your Infinity Watch, is what I'm saying for Gamora. But at least she's easy to farm. Carnage, another hard farm. And I finally just bit the bullet. I already took him through DD3, had him at 14, and the last node, of course, in City it's a killer, and I basically he was my fourth symbiote I brought in there just for another body for someone to target, because it sucks not getting a turn every day, and he was just there to take some pressure off. Do I recommend in Dark Dimension? No. Normally he's like Symbiote SpiderMan, he share very similar roles. They're both super important engines. He's the speed engine for the symbiotes. But man, with Web Warriors coming around once again, I would probably not consider the symbiotes too highly. And Carnage is one of the especially ones because he requires farming in the war store. Once again, a lot of very important characters in there. You need those war credits. So Carnage is probably not a very good to take in there. In fact, he's probably the worst symbiote to take in there, but I sure wasn't going to bring Venom in there. He's way too low. Dagger, if you have Cloak and Dagger, if you just have Dagger, I don't know. And same thing, if you just have Cloak, I don't know. Yeah, they're okay, but they have fairly long cooldowns. Yes, their ultimates are amazing. Dagger's ultimate's not nearly as amazing, though, without Cloak. So, Cloak's good, but he has a long cooldown on his. He doesn't need Dagger for his ultimate to be good, but everyone knows these two belong together. I'll talk about them simultaneously. Yes, I put those in there with 3 of the symbiotes is how I ran through City in my second. And partway through, I think I got them both through the last part of my first run. Definitely make things easier. Now, some people say that once you have these two, you just steamroll like every node of cities. I didn't find that the case. I mean, yes, it still took me several attacks on node 12. I think 3 or 4, maybe even longer. I don't remember. And Emma wasn't really the problem. It's just everything else. They're vulnerable, just like because there's no way to really take the pressure off of them once the enemy starts targeting them. So. Definitely good, though. I definitely recommend them over like the other 2 symbiotes just because of the raw damage and control that they can put out there, and there's a heal from Dagger at least. But I know they're really hard for a lot of people to get, so if you don't have them built and unlocked, both of them, if you don't have both, I definitely wouldn't recommend it, but if you do, you might as well because they're great in raids as new warriors or something. Phoenix is kind of a contentious choice with a lot of people. I found her invaluable in DD3, and I find her really valuable in DD4, at least the legendary nodes. That's where I used her. That's why I leveled her there. Yeah, same thing goes, Launch her special, if you even need to. A lot of times they seem to nuke her down first anyway. And then launch her special when she's in empowered Phoenix form, and then do huge damage to the other team. Maybe they ignore her, maybe you get some control in there, and then you can start dishing out the pain with the other characters, and then maybe she'll throw off an ult. Her ult's not nearly as good, other than stripping the buffs, as her special, because her special takes 25% or whatever of their health. And let me get the summon, I guess. I gotta show that. I mean, everyone knows this is the old Minerva trick, and this is same thing works with her. I'm sorry, not 25%, 20%. It's huge. It's huge damage with the gigantic health pulls in DD4. She's squishy. She's not that strong anymore. But if you're looking for a 4th or 5th, I think you could do worse, and maybe she's gonna have a little more life with magic. I don't know. Not that counts for that node, but for the legendary nodes, she's definitely a swing. If I was to replace one character with her, it'd probably be Maw. If I already had Omega Red at 15, and I had basically 5 characters at 15 ready to go in there, I'd probably replace Maw with Phoenix, just because Maw's good, but his cooldown is so huge on that. He goes once, and it's like 8 more turns before it's up again, so that's an eternity. And Phoenix, I don't know, you can just keep resin her in her special resets. I think she's a lot better than some people give her credit for, but the problem is you don't use her really anywhere else in the game. I do use her on War Team, because I still run Uncanny, but so it's a question mark, honestly, depending on what you got going on. I found her very useful, but your mileage may vary. Deathpool, it's cosmic. She's not nearly as good without the other new warriors, but she's still really good anyway, because a lot of cosmic, like, for instance, Silver Surfer over here, have a Mystic tag, too. So, useful, but I would level her not just for the use. DD4 is just icing on the cake. She's so good everywhere else that she's kind of a no-brainer. She's a lot like Kestrel. Great in raids, great in war. I guess okay in arena. I like her in RTA, pretty valuable there. So, great character, no qualms there. Depending on what you're building, unless you're going for full Infinity Watch or something, which probably is not too good idea. I'd rather work on the new warriors, to be honest with you. Silver Surfer, you'd think he'd be better, but he's much better with Deathpool because he'll get at least a little bit of energy so he can ult more often or whatever. So, the good thing about him is he has a lot of self-sustain, a lot of self-heals, and he gets super fast because the fights go longer the fights go, the faster he gets, so he gets pretty absurdly fast. Not a bad character at all. Not sure if I'd level him too much because I don't use him. As strong as he is, I just don't use him anywhere other than war, right, as a swing character. So, I don't know how much I'd recommend him. There's so many strong cosmic characters. I mean, you could do worse. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know. once again, I guess it depends on how many red stars you have for him and how many yellows. That would probably be the deciding factor. But he's still a strong character. He's not what he once was comparatively. Zemo, he's kind of left over from DD3 because he's so cheap to upgrade, and he has his uses everywhere in this game. He's still a great character. Squishy is all get out, but the global nodes are universally pretty much the hardest nodes by far, actually, in all of DD3 and or 4. So your options were especially very limited when I first was doing DD3. So should you level to 15? I don't know. I'll tell you what, though, if you want to be on top of the arena meta, there's worse places to put your gear. And it's difficult for me to recommend him if you have the Secret Avengers. I'm sorry, I call them Secret Warriors, Secret Avengers. If you have them, probably just bring them. It'd be much easier. There's only 3 of them, so you have a couple of swing slots there, but I don't know. It's a tough sell, but he is still very relevant. He's a king in RTA. He's on a dominant attack team in Arena. He is on a dominant attack team in War. Don't raid with him, but in 3 modes, he's top tier-ish. So he's to be considered, but if you have Secret Avengers, probably go with them, and then there's some other stronger stuff at Global. Ghost is just made for these sort of things, DD4. I don't use her anywhere else other than War, and I think I got Pimtech on defense or something. I don't use her anywhere else, but in War, her passive is just... it's too good. It doesn't seem that relevant in DD3 because everything just destroys you in like 1 or 2 hits, but like in other modes, like in DD4, it's much more noticeable. She's strong in that mode because of not only her passive, but she has the gigantic health steal, which I never even bothered T4ing on her ultimate. But once again, her ultimate's a little bit slow, takes a while. But she has pretty good control. So she's kind of built for Dark Dimension. So not bad, but I really hate like putting a lot of gear into her just for the simple fact is you don't really use her anywhere. Maybe on the tech nodes in Doom. I don't have to worry about that sort of thing, but we don't do them. But I don't know. That's a hard recommend. I don't know. Now the other good thing about it, it's kind of an invisible thing, is if you super gear her, throw her to 15, get her to whatever, 7 yellows, whatever. For the Jubilee unlock, you don't have to put any like amount of gear in the other characters other than to maybe gear 10 just to keep them alive through an AoE or something. So there's that too. So she can make your Jubilee unlock a lot less expensive. But man, it's a hard sell. And if we get some better tech characters, she'll probably be out. But her passive is still really good, and so is her ultimate, and so is her control. Just there's no damage there, and no use really outside of DD4, which is fleeting. Anti-Venom is part of the triad of Symbiote SpiderMan, and well, for me, either Scream or Carnage, and then of course, Venom. I mean, you're probably not going to use Carnage, but I don't like the character. I've never liked playing. I don't know why. He just feels clunky to me. I don't like it, but he's necessary. What else to say about him? Once again, Web Warriors, buyer beware. I don't know how long this guy's going to be there, and he's super hard to farm. If you can hold out and wait for Web Warriors, do that, I guess. But you don't run symbiotes without him right now, basically, is what I'm saying. Talked about Cloak already. Scream is got a really good kit, especially for node 12, because if you drop Skirmisher on her, her ultimate should be able to like slow Emma after you put stun from Symbiote Spider-Man's ultimate on her. That's super valuable because there's not a whole lot of damage coming out of symbiotes. So, and she has a really good kit, but man, she just falls over in a light breeze. So hard to recommend her. I'd still recommend her over Venom. A lot of people like Venom, but how often does his passive go off? Very rarely, right? Especially as slow as he is. So Scream probably, but even better, don't use her and just throw in Cloak and Dagger and use 3 other symbiotes would be my guess. You probably swap her out for Carnage. My Carnage is a lot beefier than my Scream, so that's why I went with him, but whatever. And finally, Emma. Emma is, once again, just there by virtue of not being a lot of good global characters, right? At the time, when I was first loving her. If you got Secret Avengers, you probably don't need her. Good control elements, though, and I don't know, it's just... The good thing about her is, once again, she is relevant in at least War and especially Arena right now, RTA as well. So she's actually relevant outside of Dark Dimension, so it's not a bad build, but she's once again hard to farm, orbs and all that, and not a ton of use, but still useful, don't get me wrong, and definitely if you are a meta chaser in the Arena, highly useful, but you don't need a ton of gear on her outside of, or excuse me, a ton of like levels and stars on her, because she's so kit based. Doesn't really matter that much. There's that consider. So it's a so-so pick, but depending on who you have for global, you could do worse, and she definitely has use outside of that. So let us talk about the final product here. All right, so for part 2 of this post-mortem, I guess the dying question everyone wants to know is Doom worth it? And I gotta say yes. It's a ton of investment to get through DD4. You do get quite a bit of gear and orbs and money back from doing the runs. And depending how fast you can get them done, it might be a worthy investment. It might kind of offset somewhat, at least, the pain of leveling so many characters to Gear Tier 15 for Doom. But I would say that Doom is a very worthy reward for the work. Is he going to change your game completely? Most probably not. A lot of what he can do, other characters can at least supplementally do. He is vital in some spots, like in the Doom raids. He's vital in the tech nodes, right? So if you're going to be running Doom raids, you only run Doom raids in at least the tech nodes without Doom, right now, because there's just such a dearth of tech options. And he is he is meta on some teams in the Arena. He's a great plug-and-play character in War. I don't usually use him in raids right now. I don't need to, because a lot of what I run is like New Warriors and Thanos Energy Battery. We run low stuff, don't worry. But is he worth it? Yeah, like I said, I think he is. I am like a couple hundred dark promo credits away from his 5th red star. I'm interested to see what he can do there. I just like him so much. He's like gotta be the coolest character in the game. He's no Icarus or Kestrel. It's just people they made strong for no reason other than to make you buy offers. But he was cool in the comics. He's one of the better bad guys in Marvel, because Marvel has kind of not the best bad guys in the world, right? But Victor's cool. Victor Von Doom has always been cool. They think they captured him pretty well in the game, because he's so well known for his Doom bots and robots in the comics that's kind of cool. And I know a lot of people say, as soon as Kestrel comes around, when she came around, it invalidated Doom. It's not the case at all. I use Doom far more in my short time of having him than I do Kestrel in other modes. I think he's more versatile, at least in my game, what I'm doing right now. But the simple fact, he's just so much cooler. The cool factor gives him a couple points there. I mean, his design is great. I like his kit is really nice. And here's the other thing, too, is while I love Ultron, and I used the dickens out of him when I unlocked him originally in DD2, right? And he was still meta back then. He's a lot more nuanced than Ultron was, right? While he does have the automated bots, coming every turn, you really got to think about how you're going to use every one of his abilities. And sometimes the opponent makes that choice for you by knocking him down the yellow early. So what I'm saying is he's a really good reward character. And so don't let a lot of naysayers say, he's bad, he's not that great. Kestrel and Icarus and Cersei are, much more stronger and much better suited for all game modes. That could be. I mean, it could very well be. Icarus and Cersei kind of way of the future. Wait till they get some more Eternals if they do that. Yeah, New Warriors are really, really, really strong as well. Secret Avengers maybe even are more valuable overall, even though I haven't worked on them because I don't care about them whatsoever. But for the comic book fan and for the fan of very cool and nuanced characters, I'd say he's top 3 easily for me. And I like to use him more. I probably use him in places I shouldn't even bother using him. Like, I'll use him in RTA sometimes, when he's available. But really good kit. Just real quick, his basic, throwing out Disrupt. I don't care about the charge. Charge is nice. He'll do a flip on him, too. But I just love the fact that he and his bots, they can throw Disrupted everywhere. That's super valuable debuff, maybe the most valuable debuff in the game. It's huge in a lot of cases. And of course, knowing when to throw out his special it's the thing. I like to hit Time Warp, hit 2 basic attacks in wherever I want to go, and then hit his ultimate instead of hitting it right away. But, you know, your mileage may vary however you want to run it. He's a great character. I think he's very worthy. But once again, just kind of look at your situation. He's not totally needed for anything unless you're an endgame player. So try not to stunt your progress and growth in the game by gearing up for him right away or trying to get the DD4 right away. Progress slowly as you normally would. Maybe wait, you know, a month or two to see if better characters coming along the pipe, like in Global or City or whatever like that, before you take advice like this video to heart. That's the main advice of this, is just look what's in the future before you start blowing a lot of gear, because gear is still precious in this game. So, but he's a really great character. He's a really cool character. Love him. He feels like a worthy reward. And don't let the naysayers tell you that he's obsolete. He still has plenty of use right now. He's one of the most dangerous, if not most dangerous characters in the game. And he's definitely top 3 for coolest, maybe the first. I don't know, it's hard to say, but he's cool. You'll like him. If you can gear and afford to gear their characters, go for it, I say. And don't let the naysayers kind of turn you off from him. So, all that long video notwithstanding, hopefully this was helpful to somebody. Let me know in the comments below where you're at in DD4 or your prep for it, or if you have any questions about like strategies or who you recommend. I'd be happy to answer them in the comments below. So until next time, this is Genome, still going all gaga for his beautiful green dictator from Latveria.